Ladies and gentlemen, enthusiasts of classic engineering, and lovers of automotive history, I welcome you all to this immersive journey into the world of a truly iconic piece of automotive heritage, the 1930 Ford Model 40. When we reflect on the legacy of the American automotive industry, certain names and models rise above the rest, not merely for their commercial success, but for the stories they tell, the eras they define, and the innovation they embody. One such masterpiece is the Ford Model 40, a vehicle that holds a unique place in the timeline of Ford Motor Company's evolution, and more broadly, in the annals of automotive development during the early 20th century. The year was 1930. The United States, along with much of the world, was entering the throes of the Great Depression. The stock market crash of 1929 had sent shockwaves across economies. Unemployment was on the rise. People were cautious about how they spent their hard-earned dollars. In such a time, the automotive industry had to adapt or risk decline. Ford, already a titan of the industry due to the overwhelming success of the Model T and the Model A, recognized the need for refinement, something new, yet familiar. They needed a vehicle that wasn't just affordable but also stylish, powerful, and capable of matching the rising expectations of the American middle class. Enter the Ford Model 40. Now, to clarify for all here, the Ford Model 40 name has been used somewhat confusingly across a few different models over the years, most notably for the 1933 Ford V8. However, when we refer to the 1930 Ford Model 40, we're often acknowledging a transitional vehicle, one that set the stage for Ford's evolution from the A and B series towards its embrace of more robust engines, elegant body styling, and engineering excellence. It was part of Ford's ongoing development at the time, still rooted in the lessons learned from the Model A but with a clear eye on the future. Let's begin with its engine. At the core of the 1930 Ford Model 40's appeal was its powertrain. Early models of this era, including the Ford Model A and those within the Model 40 lineage, featured a 201 cubic inch L-head inline-4 engine. This engine produced approximately 40 horsepower, a respectable figure at the time. While 40 horsepower might not sound like much by today's standards, consider the context. Roads were simpler, speed limits were lower, and a car's reliability and torque were often more important than its top speed. This engine was robust, relatively easy to maintain, and built with Ford's legendary commitment to simplicity and durability. The Model 40 began to hint at Ford's future direction, where V8 engines would soon dominate. Although the widely recognized Ford flathead V8 didn't arrive until 1932, the 1930 Model 40 paved the way for it. The increasing consumer demand for more power, smoother rides, and better performance meant that Ford had to prepare for a major shift. The Model 40, in essence, was a bridge, a design and engineering transition from Ford's early innovations toward more powerful and stylish cars. Now, let's talk about design, because the Model 40 wasn't just about performance. Visually, it marked a shift in the aesthetics of Ford vehicles. Where the Model T had been famously simple and almost utilitarian in appearance, the Model A and subsequent Model 40 introduced refined curves, sleeker lines, and more thoughtful body styling. Ford began to offer a broader range of body styles and colors, recognizing that consumers wanted individuality and sophistication in their vehicles. The 1930 Ford Model 40 was available in several body styles: coupes, roadsters, sedans, and pickups, allowing it to serve a wide variety of American needs. Whether you were a businessman seeking a reliable daily driver, a family in need of a sturdy sedan, or a farmer looking for a capable truck, there was a Model 40 for you. This versatility was critical in helping Ford maintain its market dominance during a difficult economic era. Inside the car, we also begin to see the early signs of attention to driver comfort and interior quality. While still basic compared to modern standards, the cabin featured a more ergonomic layout, better seating, and an improved dashboard design. Gauges were more readable, and controls were more intuitively placed. These enhancements reflected Ford's understanding that drivers were becoming more discerning. A car was no longer just a means of transportation, it was an experience. The suspension and ride quality of the Model 40 were also notable for their time. With transverse leaf springs and a solid axle setup, the car provided a stable, if somewhat firm, ride. Roads in the 1930s were far from the paved highways we enjoy today, so durability and ruggedness were essential. The Model 40 delivered in this regard, earning a reputation for resilience and toughness. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Ford Model 40 is its role in globalizing the automobile. Ford had begun establishing plants outside the United States in the 1920s, and the Model 40 found its way into international markets as well. In places like Europe, Australia, and South America, the Ford name was becoming synonymous with reliability. The Model 40 helped Ford expand its global footprint, offering a dependable car that could be adapted to local needs and preferences. Let us also appreciate the cultural impact of vehicles like the Ford Model 40. At a time when owning a car was still a significant milestone, this vehicle represented progress, independence, and modernity. It empowered rural families to connect with urban centers, allowed businesses to expand their reach, and made everyday travel more efficient and comfortable. The Model 40 was not just a machine, it was a symbol of hope in a challenging economic landscape. From a production standpoint, the Ford Model 40 was part of the company's continued excellence in mass production. Henry Ford's assembly line methods, perfected during the Model T era, continued to evolve and improve. This kept costs down and allowed the company to maintain competitive pricing, even as they improved quality and design. Workers at Ford factories during this period were among the best trained and most efficient in the industry. Their craftsmanship can still be seen today in the restored Model 40s that grace car shows and museums around the world. Speaking of restoration, it's worth noting that the Model 40 has enjoyed a strong following among collectors and restoration enthusiasts. Its relatively simple mechanical systems, combined with an abundance of spare parts and community knowledge, make it an accessible entry point for those interested in classic cars. Many owners take pride in restoring these vehicles to their former glory, preserving not just a piece of machinery, but a slice of history. And yet, the Model 40 was not perfect. It faced competition, mechanical challenges, and shifting consumer expectations. General Motors, Chrysler, and others were hot on Ford's heels. To stay ahead, Ford had to innovate constantly. The lessons learned from the Model 40 helped inform the design and engineering of later models, especially the game-changing V8-powered Fords of the early 1930s. That V8, introduced in 1932, would go on to power hot rods, police vehicles, and even wartime transport. But in the 1930 Model 40, we see the seeds of that revolution. This was a car that embodied Ford's willingness to evolve, to respond to market demands, and to honor the core principles that had made them a household name: affordability, simplicity, reliability, and innovation. Let's not forget the social changes happening at the time. The 1930s were a period of significant transformation in America and beyond. The Ford Model 40 was present through these changes. It carried workers to new jobs, helped families relocate in search of opportunity, and served as a mobile sanctuary for those facing uncertain times. Its design may not have been flashy by modern standards, but it was dignified, sturdy, and deeply dependable, qualities that people greatly valued during uncertain years. Today, when we look at a Ford Model 40 from 1930, we're not just looking at a vintage car, we're looking at a time capsule. We're seeing the craftsmanship of a bygone era, the industrial might of early 20th century America, and the hope of individuals and families who believed in a better tomorrow. We're reminded of how far we've come, and of the machines that helped us get here. So, as I close this deep dive into the 1930 Ford Model 40, I invite all of you to not just admire it as a collector's item or a beautiful old car, but to see it as a symbol of endurance. In an age of electric vehicles, autonomous driving, and ever-evolving technology, there is still something profoundly moving about the simplicity, the resilience, and the story of a car like the Ford Model 40. It reminds us that true innovation is not just about speed or luxury, it's about understanding the needs of the time and responding with purpose, creativity, and integrity. Thank you.